Hi, this is a quick and easy video of how I make my sourdough. It might not be the right way, but it's my way and I make quite good sourdough bread. Keep watching. Here's my bubbly sourdough starter. That was 2 tablespoons of starter, 2 tablespoons of wholemeal flour and enough water to mix it up to a porridge consistency. And I got that out last night and it's doubled in size this morning. So that's all going in first. Now I put that in first because I don't want it to touch the salt, because the salt will inhibit the yeast. It's about 200 grams altogether. Then I use about 400 grams of white flour. There we go. And I make it up to 500 grams with wholemeal flour. Then I use about 10 grams of salt. I use Himalayan salt because I like the flavour better. And about 15 grams of olive oil. Right, and then I use 250 grams of liquid. I use half kombucha and half filtered water. You don't have to use kombucha, but I do because it gives a good rise. So about 250 grams. There we go. And then I knead it all together. I don't do it by hand because I'm lazy and I've got a KitchenAid. I do this for maybe about 3 or 4 minutes and then I'll cover it and leave it to proof in a warm place. Sometimes you might need a little bit of extra water or liquid, or you might need a bit more flour if it's too sticky, but you can be the judge of that. Also, I'm adding about 50 grams of sunflower seeds. You can add however many you want, depends on your taste. You can get a seed mix with all sorts in. And then I sprinkle some on the top as well. Right, this next bit isn't easy to do with one hand while I'm videoing, but you can see the dough's got a little bit of a rise on. Wet your hands, both hands, and then get them underneath the dough and then stretch it up and over itself. Turn it round, wet your hand again, get your hand under the dough, woo. Stretch it up and fold it over itself. So you can see we're making a nice little parcel. If I had 2 hands it'd be easier. Then when you've stretched it all over itself like that, turn it upside down and put the cling film back on, let it proof for another hour. Repeat this process 4 times over the day. Oh my God. This is how the dough looks after the first stretch and fold. I'm going to do another one now. It's been about an hour and a half. Right, it's been about another 2 hours and look at the size of it now. So now we're going to do the stretch and fold. I'll wet my hand and you'll be able to see that the whole thing has completely changed texture. Look how stretchy that is. And it's like 4 times the size now. So I always say it takes 3 days to make a good sourdough, because this is the main day where you just leave it and stretch and fold it all day. 4 times or more, it doesn't really matter. There we go. And then turn it over. and leave it again, and then do a final stretch and fold in maybe another couple of hours. And this is it now, just before I put it into my la cloche, which is this thing. I've got this to bake my bread in because it's just easier, and I line it out with baking paper because I don't want it to stick, because it always seems to stick. So now I'm just going to knock this down a bit and pour it all into there. Right, there it is. It's about 7 o'clock at night, and it should get about 2 hours rise in this before I put it in the fridge. So I'm just going to sprinkle a nut mix, a seed mix over the top. Right, and then I'll put the lid on, making sure all that paper is tucked up so it doesn't stick. Right, okay, I need 2 hands to do that. If you want one of these, they're called La Cloche, and I got it on eBay and it was about £25, and they also come in a rounder version, but I find having the loaf like this, it's easier because it fits in the toaster. Okay, so I put that on, leave it to prove for about 3 hours, and then just before I go to bed I'll pop it in the fridge. Right, it's 10:30 at night now, and I'm just about to put it in the fridge. So it's been proving for about 3 hours. You can see how big it's grown. Okay, so I'll put it in the fridge and get it out in the morning to come back up to room temperature. Right, I took this out the fridge about 7 in the morning, and it's riz really well. And it's now 10 o'clock now, so it's been out for 3 hours. And this is a little tip. I put it back in the fridge for half an hour before I cook it, and it gives a lovely oven spring, and it just pushes that last little bit of rise out of it. So now I'm going to put it back in the fridge for an hour. Right, I've had this in the fridge for an hour. I put the oven on 240 degrees 15 minutes ago to get hot, and now it's in. So we'll leave the oven on 240 for 10 minutes, then turn it down to 200 for 10 minutes, then turn it down to 180 for 10 minutes, then take the lid off the cloche and then bake it for another 20 minutes on 180. This is a fan assisted oven. So this is the finished result. Beautiful crumb, gorgeous thick crunchy crust.